Moshi Moshi, how are you all doing? Today I have more adventures in Japan to share with you. As you may recall from watching my last video, I visited there this past April. If you want to see the first part of the series, please click here, or alternatively, you can watch the quick recap that I will play on screen right now. In this video, I will be focusing on Hokkaido, Japan's northernmost island, more specifically Hakodate. Hokkaido is a popular travel destination for people in Asian countries, including the Japanese themselves, but is less popular when it comes to Western countries. Mostly because when people come from very far away, they generally are more interested in visiting cities like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and the regions surrounding these cities. Or in other words, Center Japan. There aren't many people that choose to go to Hokkaido when they are first-time visitors. It's mostly for people that already visited Japan and are coming back for more. Hokkaido thought is very, very beautiful, especially when it comes to nature. What usually attracts people here are the ski resorts, the hot springs, and the winter festivals, but my interest had a different origin. Golden Kamuy being my favorite franchise, I immediately chose Hokkaido as the place I wanted to visit the most when my parents mentioned a trip to Japan. Because that's how it works in this family. Everyone gets a say in where we go. I chose Hokkaido, my brother wanted to stay in Akihabara for a while, my father had to go to Kyoto for his martial arts event, and my mom picked the Kanazawa region. I also enthusiastically took on the task of planning our entire itinerary for Hokkaido, since I was already somewhat familiar with the region, thanks to Golden Kamuy. And I mentioned Golden Kamuy a lot but didn't explain what it is yet, so let's rectify that real quick. Golden Kamuy is a manga by Satoru Noda that has both an anime and a live-action adaptation, and it tells the story of a soldier, Saishi Sugimoto, who survived the Russo-Japanese War. He has the nickname of Sugimoto the Immortal because he can survive what happens to him no matter what. So he is a scarred man, both inside and out. All Golden Kamuy characters are either traumatized, messed up in the head, or both, which makes for amazing storytelling. As the story goes, Sugimoto is panning for gold when he hears a strange tale about a hidden treasure. Japan is home to an indigenous ethnic group called the Ainu, who suffered severe oppression and discrimination at the hands of the Japanese. According to the tale Sugimoto heard, these people were trying to fight back and protect their rights. And to do so, they gathered a huge amount of gold. But then, one of them betrayed the others and killed everyone. The betrayer was captured and sent to Awashiri prison. He proceeded to tattoo the location of the treasure on the bodies of a group of prisoners, who then broke free. Together, the tattoos would lead to the treasure. Sugimoto learns that the tale is true and with the help of an Ainu girl named Azirpa begins searching for the gold. This is basically the premise of the manga, but the thing about this story is that it teaches you so much about the late Meiji era, the Japanese military, Ainu culture, the fauna and flora of Hokkaido, hunting techniques, and so much more. And given its popularity in Japan, it has become more than just a story. It is a cultural phenomenon. Not only it has boosted tourism in Hokkaido, but it also raised awareness of Ainu culture on an unprecedented scale. Some people go to Hokkaido to take part in what I like to call the Golden Kamuy pilgrimage. It might be its actual name, I don't know, but that's what I call it. It consists of visiting every place that appears in the manga or anime. So, in other words, the entirety of Hokkaido, as you can see on the maps I'm showing on screen. Official rallies are held occasionally to encourage people to do this. One of these rallies, which was called Enjoy Hokkaido with Golden Kamuy, supported by Upupoi, ended 2 weeks before we went to Japan. Talk about a kick in the balls, am I right? Of course, I still went on the pilgrimage. The rally might have ended, but the places are still there. You can make the Golden Kamuy pilgrimage at any time, with or without a rally happening. As much as I would like to carry on talking about Golden Kamuy, what it does right, the criticism, the changes it brought, the good ones and the bad ones alike, this is probably not the right video for that. This video is about my travels. However, it was important for you to have this context so you can understand why I visited the places I did, why I know certain things, and why I care so much. Golden Kamuy was the anime that made me fall in love with the medium again. Not that I stopped watching anime at any point, but you know what I mean. As you grow up, it gets harder to find a show that really hooks you. Golden Kamuy was as impactful for me in adulthood as Inuyasha was in my youth. And while it might not have sparked my interest in Japan history, it certainly intensified my desire to learn more. Now, enough backstory, let's get to the travel stuff. Upon arriving in Hakodate, we immediately noticed a drop in temperature, but I had bought a warm, cozy coat specifically for the occasion. The coat was so warm that I couldn't use it in Tokyo, so it had to be bagged up until that moment, and once we left Hokkaido, it returned to the bag again. As you can see from the welcome posters, Hokkaido is also known for having a lot of Jomon sites. Jomon is the first period of Japan's history, or second if you count the Paleolithic, but a lot of sources don't. Being known as the Age of Ceramics, people living in that era used to sculpt elaborate pottery. They were hunter-gatherers, lived in pit dwellings, and were semi-sedentary. I made a bunch of videos about the Jomon period, so if you're interested, do not forget to check them out. And of course, I wanted to visit at least one of these sites, having talked so much about them in this channel, but our time was very limited. We had just 1 week to visit all of Hokkaido, so even though I circled some sites we could visit without straying from our path, we ended up never having the opportunity. But this just means I have to go to Hokkaido again, sometime in the future. I may have done the Golden Kamuy pilgrimage, but this doesn't mean I'm now out of places to see. Now let me briefly introduce you to Hakodate, the first stop in the pilgrimage. Hakodate is currently the third largest city in Hokkaido, and it is surrounded by the sea on three sides. In the distant past, it used to be an island, but around 3000 years ago, a tombolo, which is basically a sand path, connected it to the peninsula. The urban part of the city lies almost entirely on this landform. There is evidence that people started living in Hakodate around 5000 years ago, although obviously the land wasn't called that at the time. The land and its people were both called Ezo, and the Ezo are related to the Ainu of today. Around the 14th century, the Weijin people, the people from the main Japanese island, Honshu, started migrating north, which led to conflicts between the two parties. Fast forward to the 19th century, Hakodate is now under the spotlight. This was when Japan signed a treaty with Commodore Perry from the USA, the deal that led to the country opening its borders after over 200 years of seclusion. The agreement between the two countries sparked the beginning of the trades with West, and you can notice that Western influence in the city and its buildings. But what Hakodate is more known for, history-wise, is probably the Hakodate War. But since that's related to a place I and my family went to visit next, hold that thought, because we are going to get back to it in a moment. After leaving the station, we picked up the car we had rented and drove to the hotel where we would be staying for the night to check in. As you might have guessed, all of this took up most of our afternoon, but we still had some time to visit the Goryokaku Tower and park. The current Goryokaku Tower, which opened in 26, although a previous version of the tower dates back to 1964, stands 107 meters high and offers the best view of the Goryokaku Park. You have to pay a fee to go up there, but it is worthy, not only because of the view itself, but also because you can access an exhibit about the place. You can see that the top of the tower is pentagonal and its body is star-shaped, so it matches the Goryokaku Fort, which is also star-shaped. We actually have a similar structure in Portugal, called the Almeida Castle. Ours isn't even the only one, there are a bunch of these all throughout Europe. It isn't a coincidence either, since the Goryokaku Fort was built under Western influence. So we bought the tickets and got up on the elevator to the observatory in the second floor. While the elevator is moving, a mini light show is presented to you. Like very short, it only lasts for the duration of the trip, so maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute. The second floor, first from the top, is the one with more things to see. There is the Goryokaku model, the exhibition, which is called Goryokaku History Corridor, and the statue of a very important Japanese figure, Toshizo Hijikata. So this is a good moment for us to pick up from where we left earlier. As I already told you, Hakodate became a port for international trade after the Treaty of Peace and Amity was signed by both the United States of America and the Empire of Japan. This happened in 1854. A few years later, the shogunate developed a plan to reclaim more land in Hokkaido and promote its industrial development and fortification. The construction of the Goryokaku Fort was included in this plan. Professor Ayazaburo Takeda, a specialist in Dutch studies, was responsible for its design. This job opportunity attracted people from all over Japan. Thanks to everyone's efforts, the fort was essentially completed in 7 years, from 1857 to 1864. While this was going on, conflict was brewing in the south. There were those that were happy with Japan opening its borders and those who wanted Japan to keep isolating itself, and these two clashing ideas eventually led to the Boshin War in 1868 and the fall of the shogunate. Members of the former shogunate army escaped Edo and continued their fight in various places in Japan. Hakodate was one of such places. Takeaki Enomoto, the former vice-admiral of the shogunate navy, led a group of deserters through the turbulent and dangerous winter waters and instructed them to take the Goryokaku fort. After peace negotiations failed, they also took the Tate castle, northwest of Hakodate, from the Matsumai clan, solidifying their power over the Ezo region, Ezo being Old Hokkaido, as previously mentioned. They celebrated their victory by firing cannons 101 times at the port. When spring came, the new Meiji government started sending troops to Hakodate so they could defeat the deserters once and for all. But it wasn't an easy fight. The rebels were being led by this man, Toshizo Hijikata, who would go down in history as one of the most famous Japanese personalities and who is now immortalized in all forms of media, including anime, manga, and even visual novels. I wonder what he would have thought of that. On the bright side, at least it isn't, oh my god, there is an otome game. Moving swiftly past that, who is Toshizo Hijikata? Hijikata was born in 1835 in Ishida, youngest of 10 sons. He was raised by his second oldest brother, Kiroku, and his sister-in-law. During his youth, Hijikata worked selling his family's Isida Sanyaku, a traditional medicine used to treat injuries like bruises and broken bones. He also self-taught himself in Kenjutsu, a type of martial art that involves the use of a sword. From 1859 onwards, he started receiving tutelage from a samurai named Kondo Izami. Together, they formed the Shinsengumi, a special troop that served the shogunate during the final period of the Bakufu. You can think of it as a sort of elite of swordsmen who acted in Kyoto to fight the pro-imperial reformists. Hijikata was ruthless when it came to the loss of the Shinsengumi and would force defectors and traitors to commit seppuku. He was so unrelenting that he earned the nickname the Demon of the Shinsengumi. It is said that he was very handsome and taller than the average Japanese man. Although he had many lovers, he never committed to anyone, presumably because his position made it dangerous for people to get close to him. At least that was the reason he gave for breaking off his arrangement with a woman named Okoto, who he was to marry. You know what? I'm starting to get it. I'm sorry. I know I said we were moving past that, but I'm having a hard time doing that. It wasn't what I was expecting when I wrote Toshizo Hijikata on the search bar. Guess you can always count on human thirst to make things awkward. And I know there are people that simp for Golden Kamuy Hijikata, which is like understandable, but it seems to be more than that. It seems to be the idea of Hijikata himself. Powerful, with unwavering principles, and good looks to boot. Good grief, what has become of this video? Okay, Hakodate Battle. Despite Hijikata's troops fighting tenaciously, the deserters lost the war. This led to Enomoto and the other leaders announcing their surrender on 17 May 1869. The following day, they handed over the Goryokaku fort to the army of the new government. And so began the Meiji era. As for Hijikata, he was shot and killed in battle. For those of you who are familiar with Golden Kamuy, you will know that in the manga's universe, Hijikata actually survives the war and goes on to become a prominent character. That's why he looks so old. It's because the story takes place many years after this. Given its history, Goryokaku Fort's moat ice started being harvested and sold in Honshu under the name Goryokaku Ice. The fort opened as a park in 1914 and was designed a special historic site in 1952, which leads us to today, to us being able to walk on this tower and learn all these things. But then it started getting late and I was feeling under the weather due to lack of sleep. It didn't help that all the coffee shops and restaurants in the tower had already closed. I was so desperate for a coffee. Thankfully, there wasn't that much to see in the observatory of the first floor. There was a see-through floor glass and screens where you could search for other star-shaped citadels around the world. By the way, these citadels aren't shaped like stars just for show. They were designed to reduce blind spots in gun battles. We finally arrived at the atrium and then it was shopping time. I got this butter candy because they came in this cute box with Hijikata on it. I haven't tasted them yet, so I guess I should do it now. I'm a bit full, but for the sake of the video, I will do the sacrifice. These are pretty good. I don't know how to describe it. They taste like pastry, but rock solid. Like something you could find on a bakery. Still on Hijikata, I also got this door sign that says Neteiru, which means I'm sleeping, and this bag that has Hijikata riding a horse. And I also got this super cute wallet in the form of a Shima Enaga and a pen where all of these little ones are resting on a branch. The Shima Enaga is a symbol of Hokkaido. You can find merchandise of this species of bird everywhere, north to south, even in kombini. Shima Enaga is how the Japanese call the long-tailed teeth, specifically the ones that can be found in Hokkaido. These subspecies can only be found in the north. They do not exist everywhere else in Japan. And because you have eyes on your face, you can see they are absolutely adorable. They look like flying cotton balls. These birds are only 13 to 15 centimeters long, including tail, and have a completely white head when adults, which distinguishes them from other subspecies of long-tailed teeth. They move in flocks of 20 to 30 and are very acrobatic. The Shima Enaga only appears in one chapter of Golden Kamuy, but believe me when I say you really don't want to know what happens to this bird in that chapter. Apparently, it's going to be animated this October. Can't wait to relive the trauma. In any case, when I found out that there was a real chance of seeing these birds, I kept my eyes and ears open the whole time. I played a recording on my phone to get an idea of what they sounded like, so that I could try to spot them if I heard any chirping. Problem being, they can be quite shy, from what I heard. We were a group of 4, all noisy as hell, and weren't planning on walking in nature too much. As for whether I ended up seeing the bird or not, stay with me till the end to find out. I have to create some suspense after all. What I can say is that we didn't see any Shima Enaga on the Goryokaku Park, where we went next, but that's not surprising given all the rain. The park is home to over 1,500 Yoshino sakura trees, or over 1,600 depending on the source, so it makes it a privileged spot for hanami, the traditional Japanese custom of contemplating the beauty of flowers. During the sakura season, there are extra activities that become available. You can eat grilled lamb barbecue under the trees, for example, as per tradition, or try sakura-flavored ice cream. The shop on Goryokaku Tower also gets a whole thematic section dedicated to the event. From December to February, the Goryokaku Park gets lit by 2,000 lights, in an event called Oshi no Yume, the dream of pentagonal stars. But when we visited, the park looked like this. The flowers on the cherry trees were but little buds at that point in time. We walked around, taking in the sights, and that's all we did. You can usually rent rowboats to paddle across the moats, which looks like it will be fun, but we didn't have the chance to do that this time because night was fast approaching and rain was falling every now and then. The magistrate's office at the center of the fort was also already closed by then, so there was no need for rush anymore. The Goryokaku Fort plays a very important role in the Golden Kamuy manga, with a whole story arc taking place within its walls. This arc is the second to last in the story, followed by the Train to Hell arc. It is here that a gruesome battle takes place and several characters die. I don't think it counts as a spoiler to say this because in a manga like Golden Kamuy, it's to be expected that characters will die at some point. So as long as I don't mention any names, it should be fine. This arc hasn't been animated yet, so for now all we have are the manga panels. However, the scenarios are so realistic that visiting the fort is like entering the story. If they reach this part in the live action version, they will 100% film it here, so that's something to look forward to. The manga shows Goryokaku in its entirety in many shots and from various angles, and sometimes even Hakodate Bay and the city itself. The moats, stone walls and bastions are ever present in the background, both before and during the battle. And important scenes play out on all the bridges. There are so many bridge scenes in fact that these were what stayed in my memory the most. The magistrate's office is always there too, looming over the characters. It was in this building that the character Koito was kept captive earlier in the manga, season 4 for the anime-only fans. The magistrate's office that you can see in the center of the park nowadays is not the original. It is a reconstruction that opened in 2010. Artisans from all over Japan work on this project, aiming to make the building as faithful to the original as possible. Finally, there is the food storage house, which appears right here behind the cannons. Azirpa and her companions take shelter here. Surprisingly, no one has yet done a one-by-one comparison between the manga panels and Goryokaku in real life here on YouTube, but I guess I will take the honor of being the first. I'm not really good at this, so hopefully someone will do it better eventually, but for now and until season 5 is released, this is probably all you will get. To finish off, as we leave the park, I would like to share some architectural curiosities. This part is for those of you who appreciate the technological side of things. Goryokaku is called this because it has 5 bastions, hence the word go in the name, meaning 5. While these bastions have a convex angle, Western style, the stone walls were built using traditional Japanese castellation technology, which relies on the interlocking of stones to create strong, earthquake-resistant structures. Goryokaku has 3 entrances, and the southwestern one, which is the main one, has the highest stone walls. While building these walls, the Japanese used a stonework technique called anedashi, in which the stones in the second row from the top are layered so that they project forward. This creates a defensive element by making it difficult for invaders to climb over. The stones used for the walls were quarried from the mountains to the north of Goryokaku. The andesite rocks in particular came from Cape Tashimashi. As for the earthwork, it was made using sedimentary soil from the moats, compressed by ramming into multi-layered structures using a method called anshiku. The earth structures are positioned in such a way as to prevent a clear view into the fort, so that people from the outside don't know what's happening inside. We left the park behind and picked a restaurant at random to have dinner at. My brother went for fried rice and chicken, I and mom tried out the seafood ramen because Hakodate is known for having good seafood, and my father decided to go for the more traditional ramen. Then we went to bed so we could wake up bright and early the next day. After all, we only had one day to visit Otaru, and we had to get there first, which meant over 4 hours of driving. Still, it was doable. I knew it was because I had done my homework. I am not the first person to do the Golden Kamuy pilgrimage, so I used the experiences of others to plan the itinerary. The problem was, have you ever traveled with family? How early do you think we went down for breakfast? Go on, take a guess. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. We were supposed to leave at 8:30. I had been awake since 6 a.m. Never mind thought, it's only a 1 hour delay, it's nothing that can be recovered from. In any case, we were lucky they were still serving breakfast, seeing as we had paid for it in advance. It was a buffet-style breakfast, half Japanese, half Western, so we had food such as scrambled eggs, sausages, mini hamburgers, bacon, pasta, tomato and broccoli, pastries and cake, as well as miso soup, curry, gyoza, Japanese vegetables, glass noodles, oaji, tamagoyaki, and fish. There were two things in particular that I like about this breakfast. One was these shortcakes. They were the softest shortcakes I had ever tasted. They melted in the mouth. I only took one at first to try a bit of everything, but I liked it so much that I went back for another. The second was this drink called Katsugen, which means the fountain of victory. It's a fermented milk drink that can only be found in Hokkaido, and it is amazing. It's sweet and tastes a bit like yogurt, but it's not as thick. I wish I could be more specific, but it's something you have to try for yourself because it's a bit unlike anything I've ever tasted. So it's hard to describe its flavor. But I really liked it. I wish I could have some right now. On the subject of dairy products, did you know that Hokkaido is responsible for over 50% of milk production in Japan? People say it has a distinct vanilla taste, but since I had Katsugen twice, I ended up not trying the plain milk. My brother did that. I think he found it tasty. Oh, and I almost forgot, but these little things here, not a fan. I put an entire one in my mouth and immediately spat it out because I wasn't ready for how spicy it would be. Spicy, sour, whatever. It wasn't good. I think this might be pickled umeboshi plums, but not 100% sure. Other than that, everything was great. We were very well fed. Since the hotel's parking lot was full, my father had parked the car God knows where, and because it was raining cats and dogs, we left the hotel and looked for a place to shelter our luggage. My father and brother went to pick up the car, while mother and I stayed with the luggage. We waited for a while longer, and waited some more. No sign of them. They were taking so long that we ended up calling them, only to find out that my father was having trouble with the parking meter, which only accepted coins. Which raises the question, if he didn't have coins, why the hell didn't he call us sooner? Whatever, my mom had coins, so she went to the rescue, and I stayed with the luggage. And now my whole family was gone and they were taking forever again. Turns out they had got lost and couldn't find the road to where I was. Just great. We only left Hakodate at 11 in the morning. Needless to say, I was pissed. But after some discussion, we ended up changing our plans to make things work. We were planning to cross Mount Yotei, which is like the Fuji of Hokkaido, but we found out we could reach Otaru faster by traveling along the coast. And so by the sea we went. Our trajectory looked a bit like this. We got to see Ushiura Bay and then Japan Sea. It was quite nice. I think the moral of this whole story is always have coins with you and don't get lost. Nah, there is no lesson. We are just a bunch of buffoons who can get anywhere on time. Not really helping that Portuguese stereotype. To finish the video, I will leave you with some footage of remote Hokkaido. But so we can both avoid the awkward silence, I will also be telling you a little story. Once upon a time, there was a convenience shop at the side of a road, somewhere in Hokkaido. The lady that ran the shop was living her life peacefully, thinking it was just another day. And then, the gaijin arrived. I'm making it sound so overdramatic, but the lady did seem a bit surprised to see us, as in, where did this come from? You probably remember me saying that there aren't that many Western foreigners that visit Hokkaido, and probably even less that stop in remote places to get a quick snack. Plus, we were talking among ourselves in Portuguese. Because I am the only one in this house who knows a little bit of Japanese, the rest of my family, they would sometimes take products from the shelves and show me, so I could tell them what they were. It was one of my purposes, to translate the labels of konbini products. You can even say it's what I was born to do. But don't a lot of those products have an English caption below, Is it really useful to know Japanese in a konbini? Shut up, let me have this. Konbini labels, signs, and simple instructions, those were the dragons that we fight. Moreover, my translation services were only open from 9 to 5 because since I was surrounded by Japanese characters all the time, at some point in the afternoon my brain would just shut down and I would become totally illiterate. I still find reading in Japanese exhausting, it doesn't matter how simple the text is. Anyway, I bought a sandwich, an aloe vera yogurt and black milk tea. When Mandai, we also saw a beautiful set of Shima Enaga themed folders that came with a book of curiosities about the bird, so we couldn't resist buying those either. By the way, none of these packages had an English translation, so as you can see, I'm still a reliable person to take to a konbini. Not everything is in English. On another note, I was super happy to be able to eat aloe vera yogurt again. It's one of my favorites, along with kiwi yogurt, but it's next to impossible to find here in Portugal. It's one of those things that appeared as a limited edition, only to never be found again because people didn't vibe with it. Same thing with the kiwi yogurt, by the way. People, for some reason, don't seem to like it. I don't know why. Meanwhile, it's everywhere here, the aloe vera yogurt, so I made sure to get my fill. And as we arrive to Otaru, our next stop, this is where the video will end. I will cover both Otaru and Sapporo on the next one, maybe also Asahikawa. Given how much I talk, that is unlikely, but I can only hope. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. See you next time.